everyone. Welcome to Circles Live.
Circles Live, we're here.
We are here, we are live, and we are ready to talk with you. We've got people already joining us on the chat.
We have the comments are flying in. No, you put the wrong one up there. The comments up so I can actually see.
You want to see some comments?
I
Let's
do
see some
want to
comments.
see some comments. Everybody's saying hello to each other, which is really, really good. A few people have answered the question that we threw up at the start. One or two. All of you are too busy saying hello to one another to actually answer the question, which is lovely, but we need you to answer the question as well.
Yes, and the question is this: when was the last time you were so determined to do something that you did whatever it takes or whatever it took to achieve it?
Can you think of anything?
I can.
Ooh.
Yes, I can.
We haven't discussed our answers, so you've got something, have you? Share it.
Yeah, I think the last time I was so determined to do something that I did whatever it takes to do it or to achieve it, I would say it was the summer.
Just
and we're moving back into our house in London, and it was an intense few weeks of we had so much time and we knew we had to get it done before everything kicked off in September.
True.
And literally we did whatever it took to make it happen, and then I was very, very tired at the end of it.
Hang on a minute.
What?
There's a royal we there.
Royal we?
We did whatever it took to make it.
Yes, it was teamwork makes the dream work, love.
And I'm still doing it. I'm almost there, like 90% there.
Well, I've set you up for success.
Thank you.
Yes. So
Did you paint?
No, I was in the garden and all the infrastructure.
I'm joking. We are a team.
We are a
work
team
together.
But I think what it took is it took a very clear goal. It took a very we had a plan.
Yeah.
We knew kind of what we needed to do, and we had to make sure that there were certain things that we didn't. We had to exclude some things, stay focused, and so I think that's what it took. And it was a desire. It was a joint desire. Like, this is something we're going to work towards.
It's
and make
a vision,
happen.
isn't it? You know what you want to see at the end of it. I think there was something similar recently, not exactly the same. Was our shower door broke, if you remember? It came off the track. And I was determined that I was going to fix this door. I bought the parts, looked at what we needed, etc. Then my dad came over and you were like, "Oh, get your dad to do it." I was like, "No, I am going to do this." My dad did come and help me, but I then we realised I bought the wrong parts, etc., etc. But then I managed to use a bit of the old part with the new part, did a mix and match, got it to work. Hey, it's the best it's ever worked, that shower door. Do you agree?
100%.
Yeah.
Let me say right now, I am blessed to have a wife who is the DIY hand.
I've got to be good at something.
Has anybody else got a wife or a woman in their life who is better at DIY than they? Okay, just let us know in the chat column, because I do feel very, very blessed. You have inherited your father's skills.
Yeah, well, you do the other things that are very important.
Like...
You do. We both have our own gifts and talents and abilities.
We do have our gifts and talents and abilities.
We work as a team.
We are a team. And we are a team of builders.
Yes, we are. We are part of being builders. We're going from believers to builders. That's what we're talking about here at Circles. And so maybe should we see what other people are saying about
let's have
their
a look.
answers, which would be nice. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, Rebecca has said, you just got rid of...
Oh, sorry. I'm hiding you there. Sorry.
Back in 2017, Beck decided to start running, and she achieved a half marathon in 2019.
Very good.
It meant persevering in all weathers against my feelings. Must get back to it. Oh,
Excellent.
there you go. She set herself a goal.
There you go.
Online.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've seen it here, people.
I think setting a goal for an event is a point in time that you're working towards is really good, isn't it? Because if it's open ended and there's no kind of focal point, then that it's hard to kind of put your effort into something. So
doing whatever it takes.
Yeah, making it really clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave said, join Swim Well to lose weight. That's a brilliant one. Doing whatever it takes. Yeah, because it's easy to just slip back into old patterns, old habits, and give up and just think, do you know what? I deserve a week off. I even said it to myself this morning. Give myself the month off. It's Christmas. Dave, you've inspired me. I need to get back to it. So no mince pies for me.
And I bet Dave had a goal. I bet he had a specific, in fact, Dave, let us know, did you have a specific goal, like a particular weight? You don't have to tell us what weight it was, but just kind of, did you have a specific goal in mind? Because again, I think that's a key part of it, like a real clear outcome, a really clear goal.
Yeah, good. Has anybody else put, here we go. Sue, while I was at work, the whole team signed up to the Cancer Muddy Run, 5 miles through mud. I was too embarrassed to say no.
That's a good positive peer pressure.
That is, because I think sometimes when you're around people who inspire you, you don't want to say no. Sometimes it's pride, but sometimes it's actually being around people that are doing the right thing that makes you go, do you know what? Yeah, if they can, I can. And then you end up enjoying it. So,
and again, I think it shows you that who you surround yourself with
really, really
makes
important.
a big, big difference. If you've got just people around you who are apathetic and lethargic and don't want to do anything new or to stretch themselves, then the chances are that you won't. So that was a good, positive peer pressure. Love that. Muddy Run. Excellent.
Michael said, finding the right coffee making equipment for my new setup at home. I was researching for days.
That is a critical goal. That's not even just a nice kind of goal. That's a critical. Getting that caffeine right and spot on. It's for medicinal purposes.
Medicinal?
Medicinal?
No, medicinal.
Medicinal. Medicinal? Medicinal.
He's been drinking. No, you haven't.
I shall be as sick as a dog in the morning.
Medicinal, not medicinal.
Dave, there we go.
To lose 1 stone in 6 months and smashed it. Of course you did, Dave.
Dave,
well done.
Yeah,
we applaud.
I'm going to have
to get
applause
Dave
out for Dave. Some applause for Dave. I think Dave
don't
definitely.
Get the wrong one.
No, definitely applause, Dave. There we go. Well applause for Dave, everyone. Applause for Dave. Listen, if you want some applause, some cheers, then share what you did. Okay, this is your opportunity to get some praise on a Monday Night Live in circles.
Well, keep putting your answer to that question, even, if you think of something, maybe you're sitting there thinking, I can't remember anything. Then keep thinking. You can put it up at any point during the chat. We'll throw it up just to share it. Not literally throw it up. I mean, we'll throw it up on the screen.
Yes.
And it's good to be thinking, if you can't think of the last time that you kind of pushed yourself, this is time to set a goal. When was the last time I did something where it was, it took whatever it takes to complete that or to do it. Because tonight, what we want to talk about in the conversation, the whole thing, like we said, going from believers to builders, not that believers are bad and builders are good. It's just how can we go to the next level as we're building together, is going from believers to builders means doing whatever it takes, not asking the question, what about me?
Yeah.
Because it's easy, isn't it, to ask the question, well, what about me? What's my part? What do I do? What about my feelings? What about my wants? What about my preferences? We hear it every single day, maybe not those exact words, but those kind of words we hear all the time, don't we?
I think there'll be lots of kids right now with plays at school or in churches saying, what about me? Why didn't I get the part of Joseph or Mary or the star? Like, why did I have to be a donkey?
Did I show you the video online recently? Maybe you can share if you saw it. Little boy, it's kind of gone viral online. Very, very cute. He comes rushing out of school and his mum's going, what part have you got? Is it? And he said, it's a classic part of the nativity. So we're all like, well, it's going to be like Joseph or like a king or maybe baby Jesus. I don't know. And he's like 6 and he's desperate. And then she's like, we go, what is it then? If it's not any of them. And he goes, I'm door opener number 3. And he's so passionate about the fact that he's going to open the door for Joseph and Mary and then slam it in their face. And he's like, and I get to wear brown. And do you know what? Actually, I cried when I watched that, partly because I'm just always hormonal about children and things. But also it taught me to be grateful and happy and not to ask the question, well, what about me? I wanted to do something different, or I wanted to be a part of something bigger or whatever. Just to be grateful and thankful and do whatever it takes to make my part the best I can do. So he taught me a lot, that little 6-year-old boy.
And I think we've talked about this before in Everyday Champions, but it's always worth going back to this analogy, because when you are on mission and there's a cause, there's a purpose that you have, then it's driven by a whatever it takes attitude and mentality. The mission ultimately isn't about me. It is about the person, the people, the group that I am trying to impact or to reach. And of course, as Christians, as builders in the kingdom, we have the Great Commission. And newsflash, the Great Commission isn't about
you or me.
It is about others.
Good.
And so whenever we start asking, what about me? It's like we're in a play and we just want a part where people get to see us. But really, when we have that, whatever it takes, it's more about a mission. It's more about kind of being out there on the battlefield, as it were. Like I've got to fight for a cause. And so it's not just about people getting to look at me. It's about what I get to do for people.
I remember you talking about that years ago, saying, we've got to treat it like we're on a rescue mission, whatever it takes, not part of a play, saying, what about me? And that stuck with me because that's exactly, we are on a rescue mission.
We are
on a rescue mission. And in the kingdom of God, we cannot afford to ask that question, what about me?
Definitely.
Because it reveals the true motive of our heart when we do that, the reason behind why we do what we do. And we've got to make sure that we have instead the attitude of whatever it takes. Because we're going to look at some verses, aren't we?
Yeah.
This evening in this session, just to kind of, we don't just pluck these things out of thin air and think, oh, that's a good idea. They're actually all based in the Bible, all based on the teachings in the Bible. And actually, this is where we look at Jesus as an example, the absolute perfect example for us in everything, obviously, but specifically this. And these verses, it doesn't matter how many times I read them or go over them, they still amaze me. Where I see in a few verses both the 100% humanity of God, of Jesus, but the 100% deity. In other words, he was God. I see the two sitting together absolutely perfectly as an example for us to follow. And do you want to read those verses from Matthew 26, verse 36?
Yeah, it says, Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, Sit here while I go over there and pray. He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour? He asked Peter. Watch and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away a second time and prayed, My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done. When he came back, he again found them sleeping, because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer.
Amazing verses, and you may have heard those many, many times before. But like I said, this was an incredible example where Jesus knew what his mission was.
Absolutely.
Totally 100%. There was no question. And he knew he was committed to doing whatever it took to achieve that, even if it meant laying his life down.
Yeah.
And it's important we remember that Jesus did lay his life down. It wasn't taken from him. He wasn't murdered or killed in the sense that it was against it. It was his will that he would lay down his life for you and for me, which makes it even more incredible.
Yeah.
And in that moment, all his personal preferences were to put to one side. And when I say personal preferences, I'm talking about his humanity now, which did not want to go through the pain. Any human in their right mind does not go, oh, yes, that's fine. I'll go to the cross. No. Everything within him, in fact, in the Bible, it talks about him sweating drops of blood, the anguish and the anxiety in that moment of knowing what he was going to go through. He says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. That's serious in that moment. You see, when I look at that for me is the ultimate example of somebody who's saying, I'm going to do whatever it takes, and not just somebody, Jesus, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm not going to say, what about me? Because he actually says there, yet not as I will, but as you will. Then he goes on to say again, when he comes back again, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. How many of us feel like that on a daily basis? I do, when I know my spirit, the real part of me that is connected to God, it's got all these good ideas, the right motivations, the inspiration, all of those, but the flesh is weak. And when we don't have the spirit in the driving seat, when we have our flesh, or when we talk about flesh, we're talking about the human part of us, human nature, when that's in the driving seat, that will tell our spirit to shut up and go, don't do those things. What about you? Yeah. You deserve a rest. You deserve to buy that thing and not give it to somebody else. And suddenly we go, yeah, what about me? Because the human nature screams, what about me? But the spirit, if we listen, the spirit listens to the Spirit of God, which is saying, do whatever it takes.
And what's interesting is that Jesus had right in front of him almost an excuse not to follow through. I mean, let's face it, when you are about to or you're going through this anguish in your soul, which is what he was experiencing, heightened emotion that was having a physiological effect on his body, because we're integrated as human beings. And so he sweat drops of blood because his soul was in such a place of anguish. But he was about to go through this for mankind.
Yeah.
Now, this wasn't for a group of people who had earned it. And he was thinking, well, I better do it because, look what they've done for me. In fact, right before his eyes, 3 times, his closest friends and followers were letting him down right before his eyes. They were falling to sleep. He'd said, just stay awake. I mean, here I am about to give my life and you can't even stay awake. And it's interesting because your vision will always be tested with reasons why you shouldn't go through with it.
True.
And you'll always be given enough reasons why you shouldn't. But that's a test of spirit, because the spirit is about giving, contribution, serving, sacrifice with no strings attached for the sake of God and his mission. And so in that moment, you will be tested with a great reason why you should just give up.
And, you can kind of see in lots of situations, particularly this one, why it would be okay to not want to go through with that. It would be all right to have those desires to say, actually, do you know what? Jesus could have said, I've done enough for these people. I've shown them. But he knew ultimately what was needed was for him to give his life to be that perfect sacrifice. And the fact is that when we lay aside all the things that are our personal preferences, and I'm saying personal preferences there for us, not for Jesus. That was, that was totally something completely different. But for us, when we lay aside all the things that we want, we actually begin to walk in the freedom of being in God's will and not ours. See, Jesus showed that by saying, yet not my will, but your will be done. Even Jesus, the Son of God, said not his human will, but your will, God, be done. And there was a freedom, and you might go, well, there's no freedom. Jesus died. But when we walk in the will of God, and that's what that is, it's laying aside all our wants and giving it over to him. There is a freedom that comes with that doesn't look like freedom to everybody else, but it's a freedom in our spirit when we lay them aside. And the fact is, we see this all the time. Nobody has to convince you to do the things you really want to do.
No.
But we'll find a million reasons to do the things we don't really want to do. Isn't it really funny, like Beck was talking about doing the running, she could have found when you're training to do something, and Dave with losing weight, you can find it without even really thinking 100 reasons why you shouldn't do it. I'm tired. I don't really need to. I'm happy the way I am. All those things, on a daily basis, you could say, oh, I don't want to do those things. But when you really, really want to do it, you will do anything to do that. Nobody has to convince you. And this is a good way of kind of our true motive and our heart being revealed, is if we hear those words in our own mind of like, well, what about me? We know we've got the wrong motives. We haven't really got God's will and desires in the center of our heart, we've got our own there.
Absolutely. And I think, it's important to say that builders are people who are all in. And maybe when we put up that question at the start of this broadcast, maybe you struggle to think of something.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't remember the last time you were all in on a goal to make something happen. Now, I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel condemned, but I do want you to feel challenged.
Yeah.
Because as people who are on mission, there should be regularly clear goals that we're working towards in order to see his kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. And that takes an all-in attitude. That takes an all-in lifestyle. It takes us making, and I always talk about this, all the small choices in our lives, financial choices, relationship choices, daily habit choices, choices in our work, making all those choices go in the one direction of that goal. And that's all in, isn't it? That's what all in looks like.
All in is a term that's been used obviously for a few years now, particularly, not just in church, in all business, in lots of areas of society. And sometimes we can think we know what all in means. For all of us that have made a decision to follow Jesus, we would have consciously and in our hearts said at some point words to the effect of, Jesus, I give you my life. I give you my heart. I surrender to you. But how many of us on a daily basis go, Jesus, I give you everything, but not that. Not that one thing. Not the fact that I'm hurting from that. Not the fact that I'm not forgiven that person and I don't like them. Not the fears that I have. Not like you were talking about, financial situations, relationships, careers. Not those things. But I give you my life. That's not all in. That's like saying, well, God, I don't completely trust you with those things. And actually, not your will be done, my will be done. And you might say, oh, Leanne, that's a bit harsh. But that is exactly what it is. We're saying, God, sorry, your will isn't good enough. I want what I want. It's what about me, not whatever it takes. And we hold back and we refuse to surrender that will, and it becomes a stumbling block. We think we're self-preserving ourselves, we're helping ourselves. We're actually going to produce a stumbling block in the way for us in our journey of being builders.
And let me say right now, if Everyday Champions is your church, then we are in a season, about to go into a season, which is an all-in season. And it's going to require from anybody who says, this is my church family, to be all in. I think those who have been with us for any period of time kind of know that is the state of mind and attitude that we have, because really it is all about the mission, and preferences are not our priority. No. Preferences are not our priority. The purpose is our priority. And so, right now, if you're feeling challenged, well, I don't know the last time that I was all in on something. Well, we're going to give you the opportunity. Okay, so stay tuned and stay close to what we're going to be talking about, especially as we come into the new year. But this is all in preparation, isn't it, Leanne? Because we have to be about the mission. We have to be builders who are participating and not spectating.
Exactly, because when you're spectating, you are literally observing what is going on and not being a part of the action.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I always want to be in on the action.
Absolutely.
When you're watching something, you might be watching people having a good time, or for you, not for me, a sporting event or football or whatever. I don't feel like that in those. I'm not even happy to spectate. I'm not interested. It's definitely not my mission. But there's things like that you look in on and you're like, oh, wish I could be in that. And
the jungle. Do you look at right now with the I'm a Celebrity?
Oh, I wonder what you meant then. No.
That's one thing. You're happy to be
happy to
spectator.
spectate. Even spectating's difficult of that. I definitely don't want to join in. But being builders on mission is about getting your hands dirty.
Yeah.
It's not about, watching and observing and making notes and calling judgment and those kind of things. It is rolling your sleeves up, getting your hands dirty, and be willing to do whatever it takes. And I find it really interesting that when we read those verses in Matthew 26, the closest people to Jesus were asleep when he needed them the most.
Yeah.
He was in his greatest hour of need as a human being. They were definitely his nearest and dearest. He'd poured into them. They loved him. They'd shared so many things. And I want you to think right now of your family, your friends, people that you share stuff with, that you've been through pain and heartache with and joy with. Imagine the night before you're about to be betrayed and go through that, and they're asleep. And you've said, please stay up and pray with me. I need you to stay alert. And they go to sleep. And the fact is, I look at those disciples, I feel like going, what were you doing? I'd never do that for Jesus. But how many of us are actually asleep on mission right now, where actually Jesus is saying, wake up.
Wake up.
I need you to be alert. I need you to be praying. I need you to be focused. I need you to be thinking. I need you to be participating, not spectating. I need you to understand what's around the corner. I need you to lead with vision. I need you to be there. And we're all like, enjoying our lives. Oh, but what about me? I need a break. I need a holiday. I need that money. I need that. And God's like, why are you even here on this earth? And it seems unfair, because you might think, oh, those disciples, they were tired. They deserved, Jesus let them rest, and then they can be fully engaged. And let's say Jesus knew that it was not a case of giving into the body. It was letting the Spirit win. And he was showing that in that moment of saying, not my will, but your will be done. And they were complete opposite. Their physical needs were more important at that moment than their spiritual, which was wrong. We've got to be alert. We've got to be present. And we've got to be ready if we're going to be builders in this next season.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I always remember when I, would kind of read the Bible last thing at night. I'm more of a kind of first thing in the morning now person. But when I used to do it like last thing at night, it was amazing how, when I was a teenager, I would read a football magazine and I would be wide awake. And then I would then pick up my Bible, and all of a sudden I would start to feel really dozy, And yet then if I put the Bible down and picked up the magazine, I would be awake again. and it's amazing, because it wasn't because the Bible was boring or I was disengaged from it. But I do think there is I don't want to take this too far, but I do think that there is let me call it a fleshy reaction.
There is.
To a spiritual opportunity.
Definitely.
So the time when you feel like being asleep the most is the greatest spiritual opportunity. Yeah. So if you're feeling spiritually snoozy right now, then let me just warn you in love that an opportunity is right under your nose. Good. But if you aren't aware, alert, and awake for that opportunity, then the very reason for you being alive today could be passing you right under your nose. And we have to kind of be alert and almost anticipate, that. And it's the same whenever, the enemy, Satan, will always attack what he fears the most. And it's the same with our flesh. Our flesh will always make us feel lazy and lethargic in a moment where we have to be alert. This was the hour for why Christ has come. Out of 3.5 years.
I was just going to say that all of that was leading to that very moment.
You're about to miss the climax, boys.
And they had been asking all these questions. Jesus, we don't understand what you're saying. Yeah. It's all about to be revealed. And they were like...
Absolutely.
And I don't want to be one of those people that is snoring through this next season when God is about to show us, the important job and part to play that every single one of us, without exception, has got to play. But we have to be alert. We have to be ready. Sleeping on the mission looks like saying, well, what about me? Yeah. What about me in this? What do I get out of this? When does my time come? God's like, this is not about when is your time. This is his time to bring about what he wants to do in the kingdom of God. So we've got to make sure that we stay awake, In fact, why don't you say to yourself right now, or put it in the chat, say, wake up.
If you're sat next to somebody, go, wake up.
And if they're asleep, maybe you listen to this with headphones, you just go, wake up. could be fun. Pop it in the chat right now. Shout, wake up to one another, and say it to yourself. I was talking to somebody this week and saying how you are able to talk to yourself and tell yourself to do something. Paul talks about beating his body into submission.
Yeah.
Your spirit has to rule. Therefore, it can tell your body, your mind, your feelings, pack it in, wake up. I'm on mission.
Have a word with yourself.
Have a word with yourself.
Have a word with yourself. Absolutely. And I think, it's important to realize at this point is that, Jesus had built a team. And none of us are on mission alone. So it isn't just about missing an opportunity or sleeping on the job and, missing the very purpose for this hour and that just impacting you. Actually, if I go to sleep, I let the side down.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening here. The boys were letting the side down. Jesus needed his team.
Yeah, he was relying on them in that moment to be there, because it is about a team. It's about family. It's actually, I like to refer to us as the army ready to march in for battle. And I love how the overall result is what we're going for, not our personal gain.
Yeah.
If we're saying, well, what, like I said, what do I get out of this? What about me? How am I going to look? How am I going to feel? What if I do it all and then it doesn't work anyway? We have to think about the team, not about self, the overall result, not the personal gain.
And I think God will always, or the testing, and again, God tests, I've said this before, but God tests, not because he's cruel or control freak, but he tests our vision in order for it to create the level of conviction in us that is going to need for us to have that tenacity to sustain life on the mission and at the next level. And I think of Abraham, who was told to take Isaac, his son, who was the very promise itself, and to take him up to the top of the hill and to sacrifice Isaac. And, there'll always be a point in which doing whatever it takes feels like I'm actually sacrificing the very reason for why I'm doing this. But again, I think God knows that on mission, it can be so easy to fall in love with what I get to do or what I get out of the mission. And of course, Abraham was going to get Isaac a son and a family as a result of this. And that's not that that's bad, but God needed to make sure that actually the ultimate purpose and priority was honoring him and putting him first, seeking first his kingdom and his righteousness. God will add all the other things that we need, and he will give us the desires of our hearts, but only when we delight in him alone.
And we have to know what that mission is in order to do it. We have to be completely crystal clear on what we're doing in order to actually do whatever it takes. Otherwise, we're just running around like headless chickens. And just when you were talking there, and we were talking about being part of a team, I remember it's quite funny. Growing up at school, I played the clarinet, got to grade 8, A level. Yeah, not that I've picked it up ever since. But I was part of lots of orchestras and concert bands, and for years would do different things. And I remember once, and I was so happy. Now, if you've done anything in classical music at all, you'll understand when you're in an orchestra. Say for me, I was in the clarinet section, the wind section. That's nothing's changed, does it? Still, I meant talking, not anything else. Okay, moving on quickly. So I was in the clarinet, the wind section, and basically you got to progress. So you'd start off like just in that area. Then you'd be like clarinet 3. And you'd be like, oh, okay. Ooh. Then you'd be promoted to clarinet 2. Oh, wow. And then if you got to be clarinet 1 or flute 1 or violin 1, you were leading that whole little group, and you got to play like the special little part or whatever. And remember, I obviously got to the point where finally in the orchestra, I was clarinet 1. Yay! And I remember learning my part really, really well. And then my music teacher, who was being the conductor, just stopped and he was like, Leanne, you don't need to play it so loud. You need to blend in. Your part's better when you're doing it like it actually, because you have obviously instructions on how hard to play it or what volume, but I was just going for it because I'm like, I'm clarinet one, I've made it. And I remember Mr. Reese saying, Leanne, just play it a little bit. Remember, it's medium, you don't got to blast it. And as I was thinking about that, we can be like that when we finally know what we do, but it can still be, look at me, I've made it. I know what I'm supposed to do. And everyone move out the way and forget that we're part of a team, we're part of a family where we have to make others feel good, others sound good, others look good. It's not about pushing myself to the front. If you ever listen to a piece of music and they're all playing at the same level, it would be horrific. The composer designs that certain people come through at different times to make that incredible blend of music. And that is what we're talking about in the kingdom of God. That, and you can read this throughout all the New Testament that Paul teaches. Everyone has a part to play. Everybody. Some are more prominent than others, but everyone is equal as important. We all have to get on mission with this. It's not about me. It's doing whatever it takes.
And I think that's a good point now to go to the question, isn't it, that we want to give people this week. And in your circles, or if you're not in a circle, just get with somebody and start to discuss this question. And the question is this: in which area of your life do you need to have this resolve, the same resolve as Jesus?
Yeah.
And that's the good news of the gospel, that it's no longer I who live, but it's Christ who lives in me. And so I get to draw upon that same strength, that same resolve, that when everything in my soul and my flesh is saying, give up, quit, stop dreaming, stop believing, stop serving, stop giving. Again, I've said it before, but in that moment I can say, not me, Jesus, but you. Just like Jesus submitted to himself to the Father. He was only interested in being about the Father's business. You know, I need to tell myself to mind my own business and get with the Father's business. So which area of your life do you need to start to get this resolve, this grittiness? What are you holding back or holding on to?
It's a great question, and that's what we're going to take into our circles this week on our penultimate week before we head into the Christmas break. So as usual, we're going to go through our ABCs. You can obviously answer those couple of questions that we have brought in this session, but then we're going to go through A, what have you become aware of in this session? Really, really key that you start with that. This is the kind of overall overview of what we've been talking about. What have you become aware of? B, what's the barrier I need to overcome? This is where we start to get a little bit vulnerable with each other and say, actually, this is my issue. This is my problem. This is what I'm struggling with. Accountability is really, really important. And that pushes us into C, which is what change am I going to make? This is the point where we say, right, like Beck had said tonight, I'm going to get back into running. She's made herself accountable to however many hundreds of people are going to watch this. She's going to get back into it. But it's that kind of thing, setting a goal and saying to each other, this is what I'm going to do. Help me stay accountable.
Absolutely. So you've got your ABC there, your structure to kind of challenge yourself. Watch this over again. Get with some people. Unpack this conversation. And you are going to be getting yourself ready for this next stage of the mission. If you're part of Everyday Champions, this is essential if you want to be part of what God is going to do. If you're not part of Everyday Champions, you still need to be ready because you are part of a mission, the mission of God's kingdom, his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. It's not about my will, it's about his will. Yes?
Absolutely.
So remember, today and every day, you are a champion, and there's more in you than you think. Till next time, take care.
Bye-bye.